Welcome to Following on India. I'm Jarrod Kimber. Saurabh Somani is with me as well. We're on the talkSPORT Cricket YouTube channel here. And we're going to do a buy and sell episode because there's a lot of narratives. There are narratives floating around us at all times around our head. And I want to know if Saurabh, and I suppose myself, what we actually think of those. So I'm going to start with a very simple one, Saurabh. Can India win this series, buy or sell?
A buy, but it's like a 50-50 call.
It's a small buy,
can they win?
Like you're not investing all your money in that one, are you?
Yeah. I'll probably just split it evenly between the two teams. I'm going for 3-2. I don't know who will be 3, who will be 2.
Oh, good. Because we'll come to that at the end. I've got a 3-2 take for you, so very excited with that as well. Yeah, I think that's fair. I think, you look at this and it was, I know there are a lot of Indian fans who are like, we can't possibly win, but there are a lot of Australian fans feeling pretty similar after the first test. Like, I think we have to take that out of it a little bit and say both teams have had very big wins. If you can have a very big win, there is no reason why India it is not possible for them to win 2 more tests in this series. But it's also very possible for either team to probably win the next 3 tests as well. Like, it could swing wildly in either direction. So I think that's a small buy. I think we're both on the side there. Here's one that I'm very interested in. Will we see a draw?
Wow. Sell. No draws. No draws in Test cricket, right? Not just India, Australia. There's no draws in Test cricket. Yeah, I think we have to just sell the draw as far as possible. Only if it rains, we'll see a draw.
And even then, you would think we'd need a lot of rain, right? It won't be a little bit of rain. Like, I think I'm with you on that one as well. I think it's really hard because you used to come into Test series and you think, okay, so there's going to be one draw. And so, you can work it out. Whereas now, like before this series, like I was saying with Shami out, I originally had Australia as winning 3-2 and I changed that to 4-1. Everyone's really upset. 4-1 sounds really dramatic, right? But the reason it's 4-1 is because there's no draws in there. 3-1 and you're like, wow, that's a a gentleman's loss, right? As they say in the NBA, gentleman's sweep, right? Like that's fine. But it's like we don't have that anymore. Like, we have these violent sweeps or we have these really close series, right? So I think I'm with you. Adelaide was the one where we actually thought we might see some rain and nothing seemed to come from that.
Yeah, there's some rain forecast, I think, for the weekend at Brisbane also. But I was thinking the same thing. Like Adelaide also, there was rain forecast, but nothing happened. So who knows? And even then, like you said, I think we'll need at least one whole day rained off, probably more than a day, for a draw to be a real possibility.
Yeah, and the other thing that people have forgotten about rain is that it very rarely does a whole day, right? Especially in Australia where you have the sandy outfields and everything. But even around the world, there are some grounds, obviously, if you get a little bit of rain, they just don't dry.
West Indies.
But the vast majority of grounds, we get back on, right? Like we play again. All right. Okay, we're in agreement here. India's batting. Buy or sell? So they've had 1 good innings, 3 poor innings. Saurabh Somani, are you buying India's batting or are you selling India's batting?
I'm buying because it just feels like they have been below par. So at some point they need to regress to the mean, right? So I would expect them to do that. Maybe, is it a risk to buy it for the Gabba test rather than MCG or SCG? Yes, but a little bit of gamble is okay. Yeah, buy.
I think I would stay put because if you told me that they have 1 big innings for every 4 from here on in, I know that the maths doesn't quite work out, but let's say they've got 6 more innings and you would tell me that they had 2 good innings and 4 poor innings from here on in, which is a slightly different ratio, but it's the best we can work with. I'd be like, that seems about normal. And I think they're tracking at that kind of a pace coming in. If you think about the fact that the Adelaide test, there was probably never going to be a big innings in it. And, outside of Travis Head's score, even Australia was struggling to put on any runs there. So I'm probably a little bit like, I think we're seeing what we're going to see from India, which is occasionally they might get it right if the conditions are in their favour or Australia slip up. But it should be a low-scoring series. So I can't imagine India's about to suddenly blow the barn doors off in Brisbane, Melbourne or Sydney any differently than they have so far. But if you were to tell me that they could score over 300 twice from here on in, I'd be okay. Yeah. But I don't think that's a buy. I think that's
okay.
I'm almost staying put on that.
In my head, 300 was like a good score.
Yeah.
Exactly for the reasons that you said. It's going to be a low-scoring series. There are two great bowling attacks. And spicy pitches, and generally there are no draws in tests. So I thought from a slightly different ratio than you, like they'll have 2 out of every 5 innings that are good. So there'll be 4 good innings in the series, 4 good batting innings, team innings. So they've had 1. So there are 3 to come. So that's why I'm buying.
Okay. You've got 3. I think I've got 2. So
You've
I think
got 2, right.
That's why I wouldn't buy, and you're taking a slight buy there. All right.
Yeah.
Here's a good one. This one, cut this one for socials.
Mm-hmm.
Are you buying or are you selling Rohit Sharma's form?
I knew you were going to ask me that.
At a certain point, it's a good time to buy, right? Because it's not going to cost you a lot for these shares at the moment, right? At the moment, it's a penny stock, and generally, it's a blue chip. So they've come down quite a bit. Where do you fall on the moment? Is he going to make and I don't mean is he going to make any runs in this series, because I think we assume he will make some runs. He's not going to continue to average 12, you would think.
Yeah.
That's almost impossible to average that low. But do you think he's going to make a significant change, is my question.
So by that, at least he should get, let's say a 70 plus score?
I think you have to be more than that, don't you?
80
it has
plus.
to be
100.
It has to be 270 plus scores, really, from here. 250 plus scores. I'll give you 250 plus scores.
250 plus scores.
Because otherwise, think about it. If he was worth a lot as a share, and it's dropped dramatically, but it hasn't gone through the roof, right? Through the floor. It's not like McSweeney's stock or anything. Like, it's still relatively high. There's no point buying it unless you think he's actually going to do something. So I think 250 plus scores from here in 6 innings would be huge, considering what he's been doing.
250 plus score in 6 innings, I'll buy. I just think I'll buy, but I know that if I buy and it doesn't pan out, then it's possible that the future looks very uncertain for Rohit, because if he has like a whole series of failure, given the kind of season he's been having, there'll be a lot of questions, lot of scrutiny, lot of pressure on him. He's generally quite a phlegmatic kind of character, and I think he doesn't let all this get to him. But he would be a robot if this kind of failure didn't get to him. We are assuming that the correct decision is to sell, which means he will fail, and then at the end of the series, that would be close to the end or something. I don't know. Certainly the questions will be asked. So for now, I'm buying. Ask me again after Brisbane.
If he does fail, does he retire?
I really can't say. I mean, it's such a personal question, right? So it's not that long ago that Rohit Sharma was considered one of the world's best openers, right? It's just about a year ago he was. It's in this season that he has had the trouble. When England came to India last year, he had a great series. He took the World Cup by storm. That was also just a year ago. He batted the same way in the T20 World Cup, which was in 6 months ago. So it's not that he has been bad for such an extended period of time. So, and also I think a lot of people put these numbers and stuff, he averages this much in his good period. But you have to see that relative to how other openers are doing, right? Like, you can't just take his average in the 2020s or 2018 onwards and compare that to an opener who was batting in the mid 2000s. And I think a lot of people just compare the bland averages like that, which is not the right way of looking at it, as per me. And what do you think? Would you buy or sell?
I think I'll buy, because
so
I don't believe that his form is as bad as his numbers are, right?
Yes, that's a good succinct
if
way
I
of putting
believed
it,
his form was as bad as his numbers were, in the way that I probably did with Marnus earlier in the series, then I'd be like, I can't see a reason to buy this other than the fact that eventually he should work it out. But I don't quite see that with him. In the same way I didn't with Virat. Like, Virat made runs in 2023, then struggled at the start of 2024, and I was like, he still looks like he's moving fine to me, so I'm still backing Virat. So I think what I would say is, what I would buy is if he bats poorly and they lose this series, viciously from after winning the first test. I don't think he will play. I think it might be his last test match in Sydney, if that is the case. That I would buy if we got to that situation. Should Australia pick Nathan Lyon from here on in?
So if I buy, I'm saying pick him.
If you buy, you are saying you are investing in Nathan Lyon stocks, that you think that they should continue to use Nathan Lyon. If you are selling, you were saying that essentially they don't need Nathan Lyon. They don't even have a time to bowl him in some of these games.
He bowled 1 over in Adelaide, and I thought the over he bowled was a sort of a mini win for India, because he forced Gill and Rahul were batting then, and they forced Pat Cummins to go to Lyon very early. So that was a sort of win, but he bowled 1 over. Mitchell Starc came and knocked out a batsman in the next over, and they went back to the quicks, and Nathan Lyon was not needed anymore for the whole test. So I see that point of view, but I don't think he will not play a single test out of the remaining 3. I know that last year Australia's quicks had a season where none of them got injured and all of them just kept playing, but there's a good possibility, Hazelwood has already had 1 test out. There is a possibility that there'll be some niggle or the other. And also, I don't know if MCG and SCG, as much as you have, I think, alluded to this before, that they've become a lot more pace friendly, as much as they have, I don't know if Australia would want to go in without a spinner at all, So Nathan Lyon, I don't think he is not going to play any of the 3 tests. Just for Gabba, I would be okay with selling, because if Gabba acts like the traditional Gabba it has been, seam friendly thing, then 4 seamers makes good sense. Although they'll have to watch their over rates.
The only thing I would say about the Gabba is that I think if you look at it, isn't that one of Nathan Lyon's best grounds statistically? I think I'm trying to find it as quickly as I can.
So I was looking at it in the 2020s. He has played 4 tests there, right? Australia have played 4 tests. He's averaged 26 there and at a strike rate of 62 or something, which is pretty good actually. But
he averages 14 at the Gabba altogether.
Altogether 14. Okay, in the 2020s that has risen. So then he has had better results.
Oh, wait, am I looking at his batting? Sorry, I'm looking at his batting. I was like, geez, that felt a bit low.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was trying to do that too quickly. He averages. Wait, let me find the Gabba again. Yeah, averages 28 overall. So even when it's been green and seamery and facing all that sort of stuff, it's still gone in that direction.
It's good in isolation, but I think all the fast bowlers average less than him at the Gabba. So,
yeah, exactly. I think I would buy him, but it's not particularly because I think they desperately need him. But if these tests are so short, it's not like their fast bowlers are getting overworked anyway at the moment. They've only had 1 innings where they've actually had to bowl for any particular time. They've had days off as well. But my worry is if you don't do that, someone has to bowl those terrible overs. And if they go to Mitch Marsh, that causes more problems for them from there. Okay. The Siraj Head rivalry. Are you buying or selling? Is this it? Is this all we ever see? It's just one flare up, someone yelling in someone's face, the other person swearing back at them. They're both getting a little slap on the wrist. Or are we seeing the beginning of a beautiful friendship? A beautiful hate relationship? Which way are you going with Mohammad Siraj and Travis Head?
I'm selling. They had a big hug at the end of the match. So they've
I'm assuming was Siraj on RCB's books when Head played there? 2017?
No, Siraj was not at RCB in 2016. He was with Hyderabad then. Actually, they switched. Yeah. So 2016, Siraj was not with RCB.
You're selling. It's an interesting one because I think the crowd will go at that's what Australian crowds are very good at, finding a narrative and kind of pressing the button on them. English crowds as well, compared to some other crowds around the world where everyone else has got a bit more of a short memory. It will be. I think it could be stoked up and could keep. But I find it hard to believe that those two people, they're not the sorts of people that I think would keep that sort of narrative going themselves. Do you know what I mean? They're not needly people. So sadly, I'm agreeing with you again. Here we go.
No, I think Siraj can be a little, of a combustible sort of character.
No, I do. I believe that, but I don't think he's the sort of person who's going to want to be up. I don't think he's the sort of person who wants to be the main villain all the way through. And he's not going to Andre Nell this situation, right?
Or Stuart
He's
Broad.
not gonna,
Yeah. Huh.
yeah, he's not going to lean in. He might get fired up again, right? But I don't think he will search it out on purpose from that point of view. All right, India's third seamer. Are you buying or selling?
Whether they'll have a third seamer or whether Harshit
Well,
Rana
they'll definitely have a third seamer, but whether you trust and think their third seamer is going to be any good.
No, I'll buy. I don't think it'll be Harshit Rana for this test, but whether they bring in Akashdeep or Prasidh Krishna, I think they'll be decent. They won't be nobody's Bumrah level. They won't even perhaps be Siraj level, but they'll be decent. And I think one of the problems Rohit Sharma had in Adelaide was that the third seamer gave him so little control, right? You want to maintain that grip, and then the pressure just dissipates like that. It's very difficult to do anything then, to execute any of the bowling plans you have. So I think it'll be that was a bit of an aberration also because Harshit Rana is so raw. But I think Akashdeep and Prasidh Krishna aren't as raw. They're still young and they're not massively experienced. But they aren't Harshit Rana raw level. And I think they should be able to do the job. Akashdeep for sure, I think. He should be able to at least, not leak runs like anything. Unless Travis Head gets going, which is like an outlier event, which nobody can do anything about.
I think I'm selling. I think if India are going to win this series, it has to be the first two seamers that do the majority of the damage. And I think
I agree.
the third seamer, Australia will take that as a chance to get to win the series. So I think I'm selling. I don't believe that the third seamer is going to be able to maintain enough pressure, and that Australia is this perhaps Australia will go too hard against the third seamer, and that will cause other issues. And I don't think the third seamers will ever have terrible figures, just because I don't think it's going to be a bad, all seamers are going to have good figures. But I think I sell the concept that the third seamer is going to be able to stand up. I think that is a weakness that Australia should have a go at. And related to that, Nitish Reddy's bowling. Are you buying or selling Nitish Reddy's bowling? We're all buying his batting. No one's got any issues with his batting.
No, I'm selling his bowling for now. I'd sell. I don't think his bowling is going to have any sort of big impact. I think the most they're looking at him is actually it's just Mitch Marsh, right? It's India's Mitch Marsh thing. Maybe he's at a slightly lower level than Mitch Marsh. Mitch Marsh in Perth, he actually had a good spell, but the problem with Mitch Marsh is that you can't bowl him too much because then he might get injured. With Nitish Reddy, at least you don't have that problem now. Fingers crossed and all that. But I don't see his bowling playing a major role at all. I think he's just going to be brought on as a holding sort of guy and for 3-4 overs, and that's it. He got taken off after taking a wicket. So that tells you what.
I think I would sell as well. I think he feels a little bit slower than I thought he would, and I thought he was more a 10 overs a day bowler. I thought he was more of a Shane Watson. At the moment, he looks probably a level slightly below that, right? Yeah. Where you can get him for 6 overs a day, and he might, he's got a couple of wickets, so the wickets haven't really been the issue here, but he's been going at over 4 runs and over at the moment, and you can't. It's hard for that medium pacer to stay on if they can't do a sort of a Saurabh Ganguly, a Shane Watson, a Paul Collingwood. Like you have to Colin de Grandhomme, and a lot of those guys are different kinds of bowlers, and I'm not comparing them like to like as former bowlers. He might have a higher ceiling than a lot of those bowlers as well, in some ways. But what he doesn't have at the moment is just the ability to come on and bowl 3 maidens on the trot or 3 overs for 4 runs. I think at the moment when he comes on, they're going to target him, and part of this is the way that cricket has changed. So I think I would sell that. India using a spinner for the rest of the series. A bit like the Nathan Lyon question, but for India. Buy or sell?
No, with India, I'd buy. I don't think they'll go in without one of their spinners. I think also because of all their bowlers, their 3 spinners are their best batsmen. So they're going to pick one of them, I think, at least. They won't go in with 4 fast bowlers.
So the problem I have with this is a really complicated one, because if Reddy can't bowl 10 overs a day, it's not really a 5-person bowling attack anymore. It's a 4-person bowling attack, right?
Yeah.
And if it's a 4-person bowling attack, do you really want one of those bowlers to be a spinner, right? But your batting thing is very accurate, and you don't want to lose Reddy's batting at the moment. So Reddy has created what I would call the Ashton Agar issue, right? In that essentially he's performed so well you cannot drop him, right? But the job that he was originally picked to do, remember, he was batting at number 8 in that first test, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He's no longer. He could right at the moment. Neither of us would ever pick him to bat at number 8 in a test match again, right? He just doesn't look like that is what he is suited for. His bowling isn't strong enough to be a number 8. There's no, So now they have this weird issue where when he plays, he allows for a 5-person bowling attack, but he specifically is not good enough to be that 5th bowler, which means that you only have 3 frontline seamers, and you're not 100% sure on your 3rd seamer at the moment. Realistically, they want 4 frontline seamers in that lineup. And so Hardik Pandya's bowling would be much more handy at the moment than Nitish Reddy, even if Hardik Pandya wouldn't be able to make the amount of runs.
Yeah, that's true. But if you don't trust your 3rd seamer, do you really see them picking a 4th also?
Well, I kind of think that in that case, that's what you do, right? If you don't trust your 3rd seamer, you pick both and you go, well, between them, one's going to have a day and the other one we can shelve. And we've got a spinner that we can bring in who can bowl, who can make up the overs of the missing 4th bowler. So we don't have an issue. So now we have 4 frontline seamers. We hope that 2 of them are great. We hope one of them is good. And if the other one is terrible, we can cover them. That's the idea of having a 5-person bowling attack, right? Whereas at the moment, I don't think they can do that. And so the other option is, as you said before, that all their spinners are their batters. If you have Nitish Reddy at 7, right, and then you have 4 seamers after him, right, then you have he bowls a couple of overs when he's needed, but you just rotate between your major quicks all the way through, but you then have no one batting at number 8.
Yeah. And I think that's like, I don't think that's a risk that they would want to take. With such a long tail, and given Australia's bowling quality, you can see the innings go from 100 for 4 to 120 all out every time.
Yep.
So
I think that's a really tough one. So I think India does need a spinner, but it's complicated by Nitish Reddy being their second best batter at the moment. Maybe their most consistent batter. Anyway, let's just we're almost done, but let's just quick fire. Usman Khawaja's form, buy or sell?
Sell. Just because of his age, I think, it's more difficult to come back the older you are. And he's what, 37 or what's his age?
He's old, yeah.
Something like that, right?
So I was selling before this series, and I'm still selling, I think, on that one.
Yeah, and
Stark's
his
form?
age, and plus he's going to have to face Jasprit Bumrah with a new ball every time, right? So that's
and
not...
Siraj, who he also doesn't seem to like. So I'm with you.
Siraj.
Stark's form, buy or sell?
Stark's form. Buy. I think buy not because of Adelaide, but because of Perth. I was buying after Perth because he looked in good rhythm. Of course, the pink ball, he turns up, becomes Clark Kent to Superman, and then whatever, even if he goes back to being Clark Kent, he's going to be a pretty decent Clark Kent, I think. So I'll buy. He won't have a terrible series.
Yeah, I bought after Perth, and so I'm selling just because I think we've seen his 2 best tests as far as rhythm and the ball coming out of his hand. But I don't think he's suddenly going to become terrible from here on in. Mitchell Marsh's body, buy or sell?
Sell.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think that's a sell.
There's going to be a time when Australia need him to bowl. Unless India just keep collapsing, then they will not need him. But I'm assuming that I bought India's batting earlier, right? So I think there will be some innings where at least there is some scores put up. There's more overs bowled, so Mitchell Marsh will be called in. And then we are always unsure, right, of what his body will do when there is that additional workload.
Finally, for the scores to be 2-2 after the MCG, buy or sell?
I want to buy because I want the scores to be 2-all after MCG, because that would make for such an engrossing and enthralling series. So I want to buy, but I might lean a little bit towards sell, because it's very possible for it to get away from one team, and it's more likely that it's India. I'm not saying that it can't be Australia, but it's more likely that it is India, and not more likely in a 90%, 90 to 10 manner, but maybe 60-40 or 65-35 sort of figure. So I think it's more likely, fair. But I want to buy. I'd be really happy if that's what happens.
Yeah, I think emotionally we all want that to happen, but it's so much needs to happen between now and then for that to be a thing. So, I
think India needs to win at the Gabba for that.
I mean, you might be right. I think I'm going to say sell, just based on the fact that I think now, and I don't know which team it will be, but I think now there's so many flaws within these two teams and so many strengths within these two teams. I think someone is going to crumble a little bit from here on in. And I don't know which team it's going to be, because they're both quite interesting. I did a video on my channel the other day where it's like, if you look at it, there are so many questions with both teams at the moment that it's hard to tell. But I kind of feel that it could be one of those series where we think it's going to be an all-time epic and then it falls apart. I hope I'm wrong. So I'm going to sell 2-2 at that point. Saurabh, Somani, thank you very much for coming on again and being part of the talkSPORT's Following On India podcast. I'm Jarrod, Kimber, also with him. Follow us, subscribe, do all those things you do, and we'll be back for the test match.